this just to make it fair is fair. Let's do emergency management, 15,000, because I know when Rob shows up, we're gonna have questions about why is it not in there, which is understandable.
Get it back in, get it back
in. And let's do another 50 in tree service, okay? So, status quo, 2026, fire and EMS increase, no road work. Puts us 215 short. Assuming that my calculation, which is another vet piece of this, so I should probably turn this bright yellow and bold, that my levy amount is accurate.
You're thinking right now
that the maximum that we can ask for is 718, 795.
Without ask, or that we're gonna have for a levy, is what you're saying.
Correct. Now,
So, and last year it was 673, is that what it says there?
correct.
No, budgeted, but what actually came in?
It's going to be somewhere right at 673.
Okay.
This amount is obviously we're sitting at 510. So there's a payment that we have gotten, I believe, for distribution of taxes like 2 weeks ago, I think.
How much was that off the top of your head?
Gosh,
200?
I cannot remember now. 206?
Yeah, so what would that be?
Let's just see where that goes.
We didn't
Yeah,
already
I
see
think it
that.
was 206.
It was 206. I can look it up.
We can, again, somewhat. That amount is going to affect this amount. How much do we have left at the end of the year, right?
Right, so, you know, if let's just say we got 716, which is higher than what we budgeted, then, and that we're guaranteed that, well, with new construction and stuff, it's definitely gonna be higher than 718, if that. So, which would help us some, you know what I mean, but.
Did I send you a levy one that worksheet?
It's just-
Because it's on.
it's here. We are creative with my clicker down here. 'Previous year's allowable levy. So here put, let's do single line, effective figure 673. Let's do this. $673,057. That's this amount. So this may be, we got journal entries to take out of here. That's why this 510 is pink. So it's not totally 510 right now. I think that's conservation, some of the conservation pilot payments. That's why I've got this highlighted pink over here as a through August actual. Kind of like these guys. These pink ones, I don't know if you were here for this or not. The pink background highlighted ones here are accounts that I want to go through with Michelle just to verify that the transactions that got coded into them are those, and that the numbers kind of shake out where they're supposed to.
So where it says 673, that was this year. You need to put 716 in as a guess right now, right?
Correct. So what I did is the allowable levy, right? Previous year's actual levy, 673,057. Increase for unused, decrease for debt service. So this is not going to increase for debt service compared. So this is actually going to be 33. See, so I even did this wrong. increase for 26 debt services compared to 25 debt service levy for debt service authorized prior to January. Oh, that's not the same thing. Increase in debt service.
You gotta put the 105,000 in there, don't you?
Hang on, 26, because these are all authorized prior to 05, which that was not. Increase. That's gonna be a zero amount levy for unreimbursed. Joint fire, no. Transfer, no. Annexation, no. No. I was looking at this like the one for the last one.
I think net new construction was 2.12, correct?
This year? So
Yeah.
far?
So,
Yeah, right here, 2.119. So that takes us up this additional $10,800 in between what it was and what it could be.
If I send them back to you.
So we gotta go through this budget worksheet and put the numbers in enough to get the 26 levy amount flushed out. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Basically what he's done, Rob, is explained everything he did after I left the last time. And, you know, I haven't even, that's basically what's happening.
45 minutes to.
So here's the other part.
There was a little bit more.
Here's the rest of the updates. So to start really putting the budget into big boxes that we can philosophically contemplate. What we were just talking about was the calculation that I did for the levy limit for 2026.
And it's 718 now?
That's what I calculated last night. We still gotta go through the worksheet and make sure that that number is absolutely spot on. So that's the mass revenue piece.
Excuse me, just a second.
Yeah.
Don't you have to get some notification from the county or something?
regarding what?
The new properties or the value? Oh,
Uh,
so that's already done.
Construction type stuff.
Okay,
That's-
okay.
As
August
of,
15th.
Oh, okay. I didn't recall when it was, so.
And the 717 was what?
what I calculated
Total
levy,
property tax.
correct,
Last year it was 673.
correct. That's the allowable limit from an 1130 calculation.
Right.
So still have to prove that. Generally speaking, what I went through on both the revenue side, all of these revenue accounts, I looked at what they were budgeted for 2025, where we sit, like this is 75%, so there's gonna be an additional payment here, so I slid this 100,830 and more or less big boxed out numbers to start getting closer to where we're gonna land from a profit and loss kind of standpoint.
And the average column on the right is the last 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 years.
F. So it's just 23 and 24.
Just 23 and 24 average.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are just big box numbers to start filling some of this stuff in. A lot of them are absolutely the same number, 2,700, 2,700. This one's hard to read because I got it in yellow font, 20,000, 20,000. Miscellaneous income, sliding some things around. But realistically, these numbers, obviously, we've got no proceeds from debt plan currently for 2026, so there's nothing there, but going through the expenses, same thing. 10A, 10A, 250, 250, 43, 43, 6. This one changed. This is, we were talking last meeting about the 4 elections plus the need to purchase an election machine. So that's difference there, 2020. So really just status quo, 2025 budget, move those numbers into 2026 as a starting point, and include some variable knowns, if that makes sense. Michelle's, I wanted to say Michelle's. The town's election machine, we talked last meeting about the fact that we budgeted 50 and we're gonna replace it, sorry. Amazon Man. That we were gonna replace it, so it's 15. We talked about potholing last meeting, which would be patching, right? So we budgeted 15, we were at 33, the year before we were at 53, so we, you know, starting to rough in some of these big ticket numbers. Debt service payment difference, I don't have this broken out between principal and interest right now, but we were at 165.5 next year with the additional draw on the line of credit and the issuance of the 105 note. We'll be at 199. So just taking one more step closer to being somewhere close. This number up at the top, negative 215, is currently what we're in the hole as it's roughed out. And the big number that makes that a negative is the change between 25 and 26 fire and EMS, which I think we all pretty much assumed was going to be a huge factor in the budget. So
If you took that out of there, we'd be in pretty darn good shape, wouldn't we?
So again, we played this game a couple minutes ago. If we say take this year's cost and multiply it times 30% increase, okay, and it goes to 325,000. Then we're 50. We got to come up with 50 grand. You know, so all of the variables, you can play the game. We can do the numerical gymnastics on what it may end up being. But long story part of tonight's meeting, I think, is the fact that the proof is, oh, here's the other highlight. This year, we had obviously planned at budget time of doing 410,000 because we thought Farmer was going to get further in 2024 than what they did. It's still the same job, but if you look at 2023, I'm sorry, if you look at 2024's year-end actual versus where we had it estimated, that's also short. So like we just rolled it through the calendar year to push it to 25 because they didn't get as much done. So are we over budget? Technically, yes. But we talked about the fact that we need to do budget amendments. Number one, we did ditching on South Shore Drive, shoulder shading on Marsh Road. We jetted culverts earlier in the springtime, like all of the stuff that we've approved and said we're going to take the money out of ice and snow and we're going to move it over here and do something with it. All of those things we got to formalize, which then once a formal budget amendment gets passed, we can adjust those numbers because again, it's a budget, we react to it, we fund it during the year, the numbers kind of slide out of one expense column, one expense line item, and they get moved into another one because it didn't snow, we got the money, we can do it this year, all of that kind of stuff. So it includes status quo 2025 budget, increased fire and EMS cost, no road work 2026 is generally where we're sitting right now.
So we don't have any road work in there for 26.
As we sit here momentarily, yes, you are correct. That's some of these big, like questionable, what are we going to do with them things is why the font is yellow and bold, just to kind of draw attention to my eyeball. But yep, that's the nut that we got to crack. So Frank had asked the question.
Why do we have 20,000 in from there?
Well, that'll come out, it's highlighted, right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when I drafted this,
That was for the 18,000 roughly that we had to pay.
19, but.
19, so that was that, so that's, the 215 negative will be 20,000 less, it'll be 195, right?
No, because I've also got 20,000 in a revenue line on the other side of the budget. That's this one you can't really see.
Oh, yeah.
So where are we in getting that money back from the annual orders?
We've got a lot of it back.
Percent,
I don't have a
percent.
spreadsheet percent, I
Ballpark.
have no idea, there's some individual
We have
invoice.
50% back, 75% back.
50% of the people have paid, I don't know if it's 50% of the cost.
Okay, what do we need to get that money? What do we do? And I don't know if that has to be the agenda for
No,
another meeting, but it is tied to our budget, so I think we can talk about it. What steps do we need to take to get the rest of that money?
well, first of all, she's gotta have some time to work on it, and she's been.
Correct.
Right,
No doubt. I'm just saying, what are our,
I think the person to sit down, once you have time to do that, you can fit it in for the last time of, with this airport stuff. Well, I mean that's it, because we spend too much time, but we're being boring. Being the commission, and needs to jump on the airport manager to get on. That's what I think. What do you think?
I think that's a good first step. I think we need Jonathan, I think we need to find out what we can legally charge them as interest for late payment. And every month we add whatever the maximum late payment fee we can add to that bill, we add it until they've all paid.
Well, when he gets here, you take him personally and you ask him. Okay.
With a letter from him to each of the hangar owners, or to the airport, whichever, stating that we will be taking this action, and if this is something we have to put it on the agenda and vote on, then we should do that.
I think that would probably be like if you want to talk to John, Michelle's got to figure out the actual amount due for each of the people, whatever. At some point, if the town is going to formally address the outstanding amounts, I think that would be appropriate to be an agenda item to authorize John to author a letter that says, as of this date, if it's not paid, we're going to start accruing interest at X%, kind of like he was talking about with the property thing.
I would suggest we put it on next Wednesday's meeting agenda to have a vote on it. Because if we're 215,000 in the hole, 10,000 is a lot of money if half of it's not been paid yet.
I can't say that, Rob.
I'm just picking a figure.
Okay.
If it's
So we're
7,000, it's still a lot of money.
theoretically, we've got some journal entry stuff that we got to go through too. Theoretically, I'm going to guess we're at about 12 of the 19. 12,000 of the 19 is probably.
You say you're probably pretty close.
That 7,000 left to go. 7,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what may end up, talk about this big picture, right? I've got a revenue of 20,000 that we're gonna. Michelle corrected me, which I was not thinking about when I did this, which is now that all of those hangars are individually described, the owners should get the 2026 tax bill.
So that survey is done.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
So
That's good.
theoretically, this 20,000 goes to zero,
So does
and then the expense, if the bills get sent to the owners, this 20,000 goes to zero. We're still at 215. Now, what might happen, okay, is that the last squeaky payments come in after January 1st to the town, and let's just say it's $1,200. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the outstanding. There's one guy left, and he accrued interest and finally paid it in January. We're still going to see that revenue in January, which is then going to affect the net number that we're short, right?
But it also impact year-end 25 closing.
Correct.
Because we'll
Absolutely.
be short that much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. 100% correct. So just from a time clock and perspective on all this stuff, what should eventually happen if they pay if they pay before the audit is done, those should be 13th period closing entries to back that revenue back into 2025 because that was when it was invoiced and yada yada yada, all that kind of stuff. cash flow, it's still gonna show up as a, deposit in January 26 on the bank statement, but from a booking standpoint, it should be back. So, again, in a nutshell, this big increase, this box here, the Ronald McDonald number, is that
That's kind of looks
So,
like,
why is our, and there's probably still a lot missing, and that's the difference
100%.
between last year's budget and this year's proposed budget. The 400,000 difference. Still a lot of stuff not in there. Okay.
yes. Admittedly, we gotta go through the pink highlighted ones here to make sure that entries are in the right bucket. And then we obviously gotta go through and estimate this amount on both sides, expenses and revenues. Obviously, some of them have stuff in there, some of them don't. So the fact that it shows we're 226,000 to the good, I guarantee you that we're currently not. Forecasting to the end of the year, we're not gonna come up with $250,000 out of $1 million budget that we magically didn't spend. We gotta put the entries in this estimated
boy,
column.
we can be thankful, and I love snow, but we can be thankful we didn't get a whole bunch of that last year, I'll say that.
Well, that's like saying a
Man, I'm glad it didn't rain this week. Guess what happens
Did you
tomorrow
know
morning?
it snowed up in Michigan on the 3rd?
It's like saying the guys get 33 field goals in a row and
Thank you, Jason.
Knock on wood.
I'll do it too.
Okay.
So, to that point, for whatever it's worth, we do have $50,000 sitting in an estimated amount for ice and snow this year to get us through the end of the year, which is essentially the equivalent of 6 or 7 snowfalls, depending on how heavy, right? And that easily could happen in 2.5 months.
Oh, yeah.
This number is going to go down, this 160, because we've reallocated money out of ice and snow to some of these miscellaneous highway things.
10
So-
grand on that last thing, whatever it was, fixing Shore Drive. and-
Shore Drive, Marsh
or
Road,
something.
we've got the jetting of the culverts thing. We just got to go through what's in patching, because patching,
It kills us, or it has killed
well,
us.
it has. But some of this, these, I'm gonna say these 3 or 4 accounts in here, right, are all pretty much the same designated purpose. It's highway maintenance, it's this, it's that, whatever, and they may shuffle around in which box they're in, and the numbers are gonna go up and down respectively, but.
let me ask you a question for clarification. The 488 for the fire and EMS.
Yeah.
If we went to a fire fee on the tax bill, and let's say fire is 3/4, just say it's 3/4, picking a figure.
Okay.
That would leave about 125,000 in there for EMS.
Yeah.
And so that would be reduced to 125, picking a figure,
Yeah,
reduced to
yeah.
125, which then would reduce the 215 by the difference. But actually, we then probably show a positive number, right?
So let's,
If that 488 was 125, because we put the
The
fire
fire fee,
portion
yeah,
onto the fire.
I'm following you, I'm gonna try to visually do this. Okay, so let's just call this,
EMS service.
oh, you want, okay, we can do that.
Or the other way, which both
Yep.
work.
And then we're gonna do this, we're gonna call this 5,060. I'm just using numbers.
Sure.
Let's turn this whole thing yellow font so that Josh doesn't screw it up and move it in there at some point. Ooh. Okay, let's do that. Okay. And then on this side, let's just put it. 44 stringing through.
The under tax section.
No, because it would.
Or this, are you in expenses or
These are revenues.
revenues?
So it would have to be a special, why don't we put it up here?
Well, it would be
42.
paid on the tax bill, so wouldn't it be tax revenue?
We also collect trash on the tax bill too, which is why that's a separate, so let's call this all black, yellow font, let's call this 42000-2, let's call it fire, oops, easy dude, fire speed, okay? We'll go over here, equals 488,668 times 0.75. Okay, and then we'll go down here and we'll say this equals 668 times 0.25.
Those are just
Theoretical
numbers,
numbers, yep. And then this becomes 366,501 equals, let's just do it this way, equals that guy.
But it's really fire protection. The 366 is fire.
So it reduces
Correct.
it to 151.
No, it puts us. Come on. Oh, do this.
It should
this,
wash out and
do
still be
this.
215, shouldn't it?
So here's the question. With fire fees, if we do this, do we have to reduce this amount by this amount?
You have to reduce it by, I don't think by the full amount.
I don't know the
No,
answer.
I know.
Jonathan's supposed to, did we ask him to do something with this?
Yes.
Yes.
We did ask him.
Monday
Because-
night.
Yeah,
Because-
I know, he's got
We'd have to reduce that amount by whatever it currently would be. The fire fee would cover the increase as well. But the number out of the 718, I don't know that it's 1 for 1.
So I don't know what the
I
levy.
don't either.
Let's use our friends
It-
three blocks away. Okay, when they, I don't know the answer to a fire fee. Public fire protection fees, okay, similar to garbage and recycling. If you moved the taxable collection out of the tax levy and made it a fee, you could keep the levy limit where it was.
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
what the village did.
That's what they're doing with the $120,000 for the public fire
Right.
protection. They're moving it from the tax bill to a water bill, and they're able to keep the levy limit where it is. Okay, so my answer is I don't know the answer about a fire fee, because if we take off, if we leave the levy limit, we go to $150,000 to the good, okay? Because we've shifted the cost of fire to a special charge.
Right.
Whether or not we can hold the levy there, or we have to reduce it by the same amount that we move to a charge, that's the question that I don't know. If that's the case, then you could easily, and I'm just gonna use this as a super simple way to do this, you could come down to highway and street construction and put in $151,000 and say, boom, we're done. Right? The net effect of that is that this $300,000 is still being collected from our residents. It's on their tax bill.
Paid no matter what, whichever way you
Yes,
look
but
at
it's
it.
not impacting the tax levy
Correct.
every year.
Correct. The other thing that we don't know the answer is how should I phrase this? We don't know the applicability to various different types of parcels in the town.
Well, we have to, yes.
Who pays what kind?
And how is farmland, how is vacant lots, how are all those addressed, commercial
Right.
versus residential?
Correct.
I believe we need to have somebody, well, Jonathan looking into the legality of it, and what steps does it take to make it happen? And then I'm gonna make a stupid statement because I don't know the answer to it, but is it our auditors that would have to tell us how to structurally make it happen and the numbers to use, or who would we get, our accountant?
I would hope they would be able to help. The other thing is that we could hire someone
We need,
outside of both our current attorney because the auditor is gonna have a mild conflict of interest with that. But potentially not, you know what I mean, like, they're advising us on how to collect, but there's other financial firms out there that municipalities use every single
And
day.
then have experience in this transition, et cetera.
And be able to advise us on, this is how, you know,
And I think.
Spencer is doing it, or whoever, like,
I think we need to get into that ASAP and start that process as well, whether we ultimately go to it or not. We don't know enough to really decide if we should do it, so we need somebody to start digging into it, because it's probably a 2 or 3 month process to figure it out, at a minimum. So, do we need a motion now to figure out how to begin to work on this? Potential fire fee?
If we're gonna spend money, or if we're just gonna reach out and find, like, if we're gonna, I'm gonna use companies' names. If we're gonna reach out to Ellers and say, hey, this is what we wanna do, can you give us a proposal on how much it would cost? I don't think that the board needs to take any action to do homework. But
Do we know a community that has, that we can reach out to and say, who did you use to figure this out for you?
I think we definitely could.
Can I ask what a fire fee is?
It would be a flat, so what we're doing right now is, we've got services. One of those services that we provide to the community is fire and EMS protection, okay? The way we collect fees to offset the expense is via the property tax bill, which means if your house or property is worth more, you're paying more towards fire. Let's say your house is worth twice mine. You're paying twice as much for fire and EMS protection as what I am. That's just the way that tax bills work out. Same with snow plowing, same with mowing the ditches, whatever. A fire fee would be structured, and this is a lot of the dangerous pieces of this, is that we don't know the answer, quite frankly, on how, like, garbage and recycling. If you have a vacant parcel but they don't pick up garbage, your tax bill doesn't have garbage and recycling included on it. But if you have a house on it, or whatever other building, and you have garbage and recycling service, you pay a flat fee for that service. So imagine it somewhat similar to the special charge that you see on your tax bill for garbage and recycling. Would be a special charge on your bill, on your tax bill, that would say fire protection. Okay, a fire fee is only for fire service, not fire and EMS, as we've historically paid the service via tax bills. It's one big number, and it's made up of all of the expenses of fire and EMS protection. Fire fees are only able to collect the costs for fire protection. So a week ago Thursday, we were kind of spouting off and complained about the fact that we didn't have a line item budget from the village, because part of their budget specifically dictates how much, and to a point it's kind of up to them how they structure it and everything else, but if the wages for one person are wholly a fire thing, or wholly an EMS thing, or that person does both and they split them, like, that line item detail is super important for us, because it's going to dictate how that cost picture looks. Does it dictate the difference in the end number? Not exactly, because there's a cost of service and we got to figure out how to pay for it. But the mechanism of doing that is important, to have that line item detail. And above and beyond that, it affects other things that we don't quite frankly know the answer to at the moment, which is, can we hold the levy where it is? Does it have to be reduced by, is it a 90-10 thing? Is it a 50-50 thing? Is it 100-0? You know, all of that kind of stuff. The difference is that there is a potential that all of the parcels in a town would see a fire fee, including those that are currently exempt from paying tax. Similar to what the village,
Which that means,
similar to what the village